see Catherine.
Yeah, I didn't see Catherine there.
Yeah, but
the name of your organization?
Oh, the organization is on the... William Wagner down here at West Temple, the Criminal Courts Building. We have a celebrity from Europe named Navi, probably, if not the most well-recognized and best tribute artist to Michael Jackson, certainly on the top 3. Navi, it's great to have you here.
It's good to be here.
You came all the way from Europe, didn't you?
We came from England.
Just specifically for this?
Only for this. Only to be here and let whoever needs to know that Michael Jackson fans are here from different countries. Some fans can make it, some fans can't make it, but we want justice for the situation.
Hello, Tom! Tom Mesereau, the defense attorney. That was Tom Mesereau, the defense attorney. Tom Mesereau is just in. Navi, you came all this way. Were you watching the trial in Europe? Were you getting the full shots on the internet?
You know what? It is on in Europe, but the thing is I haven't been watching it because at the end of the day, no matter what the details of the trial is, the bottom line is this man was paid to do a job professionally from day one. Forget the night that this happened on June 25th. From day one, this man was paid to do something professionally, and he did not fulfill that requirement of his title of a doctor. So the whole details of what went on that night, the night before and that morning, I think is irrelevant to the fact that this man is a professional. He was paid to be a professional, and he was negligent right the way across. He provided propofol to Michael in a situation that was not monitored the way it should be, in a scenario, not in a hospital, in a home. And this man is not fit to be a doctor, and he should be accountable for the death of Michael.
Would you compare this, the way he gave propofol and Lazatran and these other drugs without keeping a record, without monitoring, without a measuring pump measuring, would you call this equivalent to Russian roulette?
Yeah.
Is he playing Russian roulette with drugs?
He was playing Russian roulette, but I mean, he was also, I mean, the fact is that him giving all this stuff, whether he kept a record or not, just giving the stuff was wrong, illegal, and he should pay a price. And it's not just a price of 4 years if he gets that. It's a much bigger price. You took a man's life, you hurt millions of hearts around the world. You should not be, there should be a much heavier sentence than that.
Is it true there were fans in Europe that committed suicide when they heard Michael had died?
I don't know. What I do know is that people did commit suicide. I don't know who and where, but I heard that.
One of the pieces of evidence that came forward in this trial so far is that when he first saw the medics, he did not inform them that he had given a massive dose of propofol and how much. In fact, he hid that point, and when he got to the ER room, the emergency room, he told the personnel there that he was treating him for dehydration and withheld for precious seconds and minutes the fact that he had pumped him up with propofol, so they couldn't react because they didn't know when Michael first arrived that he was stuffed full of propofol. At that point, by denying that information, do you think he crossed the line, went from manslaughter to second-degree murder?
I think that's a very strong case, because the fact is that you're meant to call 911 and get the help immediately. It took him nearly 30 minutes to do so. I don't know why this man was so worried about cleaning up the room and getting rid of stuff rather than trying to get the initial issue here, which is to save Michael Jackson. I think this man has a lot to answer for. That's why it should not be what he's standing for. He should not get 4 years. He should be getting a life sentence because he took a life.
You performed for Michael both in Los Angeles and I think London, right?
New York.
Or New York. When he watched you, didn't he smile?
Yeah, he smiled. I met Michael. I went to Neverland. He gave me a standing ovation. Michael was supportive to not just me, but any fan, any Michael Jackson fan. Michael Jackson is encouraging to everybody.
Did you get to speak with him either in New York or in Los Angeles?
Yeah, both times.
What did he say to you?
He said I was an amazing dancer that I practice every day. I met him in London a few times. I met him in Germany. Michael's always been supportive, encouraging, and the most important thing is he's always been very humble.
A lot of people have mentioned he's humble when you meet him in person. Did he strike you that way?
In fact, he was so humble, I thought he was having me on.
Really?
Yeah, I thought he was winding me up. I mean, I said he said I was an amazing dancer, and I said, no, Mike, you're an amazing dancer. And he goes, no, really? Seriously? And I'm thinking, this guy's having me on, but he was actually being humble.
That was my impression. I watched him every day for 5 months in the trial in '05, and he would come into that courtroom so quiet. It was like he was in slippers. He just sort of glided in. I didn't notice him until he passed me. The fans noticed, but
I'll tell you one story. We was backstage at the World Music Awards in London when they honored Michael for 104 million copies of Thriller, and there was Beyonce and Rihanna and Chris Brown did Thriller, and they asked me if I wanted to dance like a monster, and I said no, I'll just keep myself as myself, and I'll meet Michael, which would be good. Michael sat backstage in his limo, and he didn't want to meet nobody, but he wanted to meet all the dancers 2 by 2 to say thank you. And they didn't dance with him. He wanted to meet the dancers that danced Thriller with Chris Brown to say thank you. He didn't want to meet no Beyonce, no Chris Brown, no one. He just wanted to thank the dancers.
wow, that's an incredible personality.
It was, I mean, for me that day, I wasn't happy because I was going to meet him, but I was actually even more respectful of him, that he wasn't interested in somebody that was somebody. He wanted to kind of spend time with people that was ignored or forgotten.
Have you been made aware yet that they changed the law called SB
From October.
Yeah, October 1st? They changed the law so that even if Murray's convicted and even if he's given 4 years in state prison, he won't serve a single day in state prison if the probation officer and the judge deem he's not a threat to society.
Well, in the United Kingdom, when you start something and it's prior to the date of the 1st of October, then it should be accountable to the law that it was at the time when you started the trial. It should not be changed halfway through. So whatever it was before the 1st of October, and Murray was held responsible by then, they should hold him to that. But I think this trial needs to be reassessed for something a lot bigger. He needs to pay a bigger price. This is not, this is not a 4-year sentence. This is a life for a life.
I agree. This should be a life for a life. And the worst that can happen to him is 4 years. The chances are great that he will go to the sheriff's department, be fingerprinted, they'll do his mugshot, they'll put an ankle bracelet, they'll sign some papers, and he'll go home to sleep with his girlfriend. He will just not really pay a price. The only way, I think, since I went to law school for 3 years, I think the only way justice could happen is this district attorney would have to motion the judge to dismiss this case right now without prejudice. Without prejudice means he can bring the charges again and then come back and bring second-degree murder charges, voluntary manslaughter, and involuntary, and let the jury decide which one fits.
Well,
Would you favor that?
In a way, yes. In a way, yes. I mean, because, what's the point getting him for something that really hasn't paid the price for it? And it might be worth dropping these charges, like you say, without prejudice, and bring newer ones, because the evidence stands. It all stacks up. So whatever you're going to charge him for, it's going to go against him. So I think it might be better, now that they've laid out the case, to let this one go and go for something bigger, because he deserves to pay a full price.
I agree. Well, that's our interview here down at the Criminal Courts Building in downtown Los Angeles on Friday afternoon with Navi, who flew all the way, because I'm sure he didn't swim, flew all the way from Europe just to be here to support Michael, and he's been dead for 2 years. That's incredible dedication. And there's a lot of other fans here too.
Can I just say that there's a lot of fans in Europe that we know that hasn't made it. We made it, 4 of us made it, but a lot of people that can't afford it. A lot of people that can't afford the time, or they got family, or they can't afford the finance, but they are 100% Michael Jackson fans. They're glued to their sets back in the UK and around the world, and they want to make sure that Michael isn't forgotten and it isn't ignored, the fact that Murray stole this, not from just Michael's family, but Michael's family's extended. We're all family. We grew up with him. We loved him for whatever he did. And, I think this man needs to pay a price properly. This is a farce. What's going on now? 4 years? That's ridiculous. I think that this needs to be reassessed, maybe brought back, dropped and readdressed, and in something a lot more fitting for the crime.
Yeah, I can't help but notice that Janet Arvizu, who started that terrible thing in 04-05, was proven to be a welfare felon, and
She served time afterwards,
I don't think she served a day. I think she was convicted.
but she's convicted.
She was convicted,
But she
but
was convicted before and after of something else before with J.C. Penney's.
well, J.C. Penney, she won a settlement from them.
And then I thought they changed it when they found out that she was coaching.
Well, what I saw in the courtroom in '05 is that Tom Mesereau, we just saw go in the courthouse here, Tom Mesereau proved on the court record that she was a welfare fraud, had lied, saying she was penniless, when in fact she had a check for over $50,000 in her purse while she's telling the welfare people here in Los Angeles. That is felony fraud. Felony fraud. She was not required to put up a single dollar in bail. They weren't even going to charge her, except me and about 100 fans kept calling the DA saying, why aren't you bringing the charges? Finally they did. She was allowed to go in and out of the courthouse in pajamas, in running fatigues. They snuck her out the back door. She was given golden gloves treatment, not like Michael, who had to walk through a gauntlet of media. It was quite different. And knowing that background, and knowing that all these 400 judges in this judicial district where we're standing right now, they all took bribes, open bribes for 20 years. Every one of them was proven at the appellate court in a case that Richard Fine brought to take bribes from the County of Corporation of Los Angeles, which didn't lose a single lawsuit either way for almost 3 years. For proving that, Judge Affey threw Richard Fine in jail here in Los Angeles for 18 months for winning and proving 400 judges took open bribes. Knowing that background, I am very suspicious that we're going to see any real justice in this trial. And I kind of suspect that the defense team wants him convicted now of this very low charge, and they're cooperating with the prosecution, who got the law changed, or someone got the law changed, so that he will serve virtually not a day in state prison if it goes the way I think it's going to go. And when you know the background of the judges take bribes and got away with it, and then they passed a law called SBX 211 on the second week of February, and Governor Schwarzenegger signed it into law 10 minutes to midnight with no media, and there's been no media except for my television show. We're the only ones that talk about it. Nobody here in LA, none of the big media have touched on this. This is wrong. They made the law retroactively legal. 20 years of crime was abolished by XB 211. Knowing that is happening in this place where we're standing right now, I am very doubtful that anybody in the system planned for any justice to happen here. And it's not because I'm a Jackson fan, because I'm not a Michael Jackson fan. I'm not a fanatic. I am a fanatic for justice. And I think justice has been denied here again and again.
Can I underline something? The thing you've got to remember is this. When Santa Maria, if the world's press wasn't there, I don't think justice would have been done. And now the world's press is here again. The eyes are on the system. And you cannot just get away with anything you want. You can't just pass it under the mat. So I think that Los Angeles has to stand up and be accountable for their legal system. And I think Michael Jackson's case is the only one that can be global. This is not an American star, this is a global star. And I think that with the world watching, they really have to be accountable of what this man did and what price is he going to pay and what is the system going to allow.
I think the only way that'll happen, Navi, is if they drop these charges without prejudice and the judge agrees to drop them without prejudice, and then bring new charges of second-degree murder by poisoning, because when he lied at the emergency room, he crossed that threshold, in my mind. If I was on the jury right now, I would be irate that they did not bring second-degree murder charges. I would just be really upset.
I think somebody needs to, I think the jury and the people in the court needs to think about this. Forget Michael Jackson. If this happened to your family member or a friend of yours, what would you be looking for? And this is a man that's meant to be responsible, and he's not sharing his time with 50 different patients. He's not sharing his time with a private care with 10 patients. He was specifically for one person. What would your view be on it now? Forget Michael Jackson. Just take it as if it's someone you knew or a family member.
Well, based on what I've seen in the evidence, he did the drips wrong. He did everything as wrong as you could. Number one, you don't do it at home. Nobody else has ever done this except in '92, and that was a homicide.